understand case of an animal, of a carbon, that was shechted inside the Beis HaMikdash, that ultimately was offered up outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Muktari chutz shehel on l'chutz minayin. We'll say, how do I know that there's a prohibition ultimately to go ahead and offer up that which was shechted outside, to offer it up outside? Now look at Rashi for just a moment. This is the third line down in Rashi from the top. Ashkechan muktari bifnim shelan b'chutz shchutei pnim shayu omdim lahaktiran bifnim. Suppose say if I have karbanos that were shechted inside the Beis HaMikdash that should have been offered up inside the Beis HaMikdash ve'elan b'chutz chayiv, and you offered them up outside, I understand that you're chayiv. Ki dichsiv ba'alo val pesach al moed lo yavienu beru'uyan lahavian lifnim. So the idea of going ahead and taking a carbon that was shechted inside the Beis HaMikdash, should have been offered up inside the Beis HaMikdash, but it was subsequently offered up outside the Beis HaMikdash, I understand that that is aser. However, again, look at next Rashi. Muktari chutz, shchutei chutz, sha'omdim likater b'chutz lo b'fnim. So it's actually very interesting. So the Gemara says is as follows. How do I know that now a carbon that was shechted outside, that there's also a prohibition to go ahead and offer it up outside as well? So that's the Gemara says muktari chutz shehel on the chutz minayin amrav kana amrakra. So the pasuk of Bose says va'alehem tomar, va'alehem tomar. So we'll say the rest of that pasuk is ish mi beis Yisrael min hager asher yagur besocham asher ya'ala ola ozavach ala smuchin tomar. So we'll say, so therefore again the Gemara understands va'alehem tomar. This pasuk is juxtaposed to ultimately the one that comes before it. So look at Rashi for just a moment. Va'aleim tomar zet chilas parshas ha'alah. So we'll say this is the beginning of the parsha of ultimately offering up the karbanos. Usmucha leparshas shchutei chutz, and it is juxtaposed to the parsha of the prohibition of shechting karbanos outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Sha'amar shim he'elu b'chutz chayiv va'aleim krein, to teach me that what? That if the carbon was offered up outside, ultimately, again, one is chayiv for that. So the Gemara says, "Maskif le Rava." Rava says, "Here's the problem." We're saying, "Miksiv va'alehem." Does it say "and upon them"? Ve'elehem ksiv. It says "and to them." So we'll say, so the idea the Gemara is trying to darshan over here is va'alehem. The Gemara was trying to go ahead and darshan the juxtaposition. The only problem is that would work if the word was written with an ayin, but the word is written with an aleph. Ela kidtar Rabbi Shmuel. Rather, again, as they taught in the Yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel, va'alehem tomar la'arif parshios. So I'll say ultimately again the ve'alehem tomar, and to them you will say. The Rabbi will say, so ultimately what we're really going ahead is focusing on the vav, not as much the word alehem, but ultimately again the vav, and the vav. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Elakid Rabbi Shmuel va'alehem tomar la'arif parshios vav mosif al inyan rishon. The vav ultimately is the vav hamosif, which ultimately connects the two juxtaposed portions. Uma'arif haparshas lomar shav shchutei chutz shalon b'chutz chayiv. Therefore, the vav Rabbi comes to go ahead and juxtapose the two sections to tell you that just as it is usher to go ahead and shecht a carbon inside and offer it up outside, so too it is usher if a person goes ahead and what? Shechts it outside and offers it up outside as well. Rabbi Yochanan says as follows. We'll say again, back to the original discussion. So Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Asya hava hava. Rabbi Yochanan says, make a gzer shava of hava hava. What does this mean? Ma lahalon muktari chutz. Just like Rabbi said over there, we're talking about a situation where the carbon is offered up outside, shechted outside, afkan muktari chutz. So Tovir is talking about a case where the carbon was shechted outside. Maskiv Rabibi, Rabibi says hadisnan shloshim v'sheish krisos b'Torah. So let's remember again. So Rabibi says the Mishnah teaches us that there are 36 instances of kares in the Torah. The problem is, I will say, if you're going to say that shechting a carbon outside and offering it up outside is aser, so you will say up until now. See, I want to show you something very interesting, which is the Gemara is suggesting over here that a carbon that is shechted outside, there's an issue of also offering it up outside. Now, I understand when you shecht a carbon inside the Beis HaMikdash, there's a prohibition to offer it up outside the Beis HaMikdash. Why? Because that carbon has a chalos shein carbon because it was offered up, it was shechted on the inside. The novelty that the Gemara is advancing now is that even a carbon which was initially shechted outside is going to have a prohibition to offer it up outside. If that's the case, says the Gemara, then there really aren't 36 issues of kares, but in fact there are 37 situations of kares. Because I will say this last case of a carbon being shechted outside and also being prohibited to be offered up outside is a new addition, to which the Gemara says, Tlasin v'shev havyon ika hama'ale v'hama'ale. Both say again, because you have two cases. You have the case of shchutei pnim and the case of shchutei chutz, to which the Gemara says kasha. Indeed, that is a question. V'hodisnan, but yet that which we learned, hazorik mikzas damim b'chutz chayiv. Both say, now listen to this case. So we're transitioning a little bit over here. So we'll say, what about the following situation? What if you throw some of the blood? You do some of the zrika outside. So we'll say, in this case over here, you're doing some of the zrika inside and some of the zrika outside. So what's the halacha? Chayiv. Ultimately, again, one is chayiv for such an act. So it says the Gemara, Minalan, where do we know that from? Nafkalei midisanya. We learn it out from the following pasuk. Dam yichoshev. So we'll say the pasuk over here is Ve'al Pesach o Amoilo Heviu Lakrif Karban LaHashem Lifnei Mishkan Hashem. So this is talking about, again, person who performed sacrificial service outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So what's the halacha? Dam yechoshev la'ish hahu dam shafach. Ultimately, again, literally there'll be an iniquity for this person. Dam yechoshev dam shafach. He spilled blood. V'nichras ha'isho mikarav amo. So watch this. Dam yechoshev. What's the meaning of that phrase? Dam yechoshev. L'rambos hazorik. We'll say this comes to include a person who even does a partial zrika outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Tiv Rabbi Shmuel. These are the words of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva Omer O zavach l'rabos as hazorik. Rabbi Kiva learns it out separately. He says from the phrase of O zavach. We'll say that's the pasuk. Va'aleim tomar ish mi beis Yisrael umin ager asher yagur b'socham asher ya'ale ola O zavach. So also Rabbi Akiva's model, that last phrase O zavach, which is extra, What does O zavach come to teach me? That even if you sprinkle some blood outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you'll be chayiv. So we'll say, interestingly enough, Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva are both agreeing. What are they agreeing about? That if you do a partial zrika outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you are chayiv for that. What do they disagree about? What is the source for that particular halacha? So ultimately, again, Rabbi Shmuel learns out from Dam Yechashev, Rabbi Akiva learns out from O Zavach. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel, Hai O Zavach, my Avidle. So we'll say again, so what does Rabbi Shmuel do with this phrase O Zavach? In other words, if he's not using it ultimately to teach me about Zrika outside of the Beis Hamikdash, so what does he come to use it for? My Avidle, Lechalik. We'll say comes to distinguish. Now, what does this mean? If you look at Rashi, it's the second wide line in Rashi, the chalik, to lotema adimasik ola ushlamim. So we'll say, remember again, because the psukim over here are talking about ola and shlamim together, I might have thought that I would only be chayiv if I perform both an ola and the shlamim outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Kamash malan though, Ozava comes to say that even if you just do one of these items outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you will be chayiv. Rabbi Akiva lechalik minole. Where does Rabbi Akiva learn out this halacha? Lechalik nafkale milo yivienu. Let's say he learns out from the phrase ultimately again of lo yivienu. Rashi says you shall not bring it. Mashma chad. It means even one of them. Okay, so the Gemara says Rabbi Shmuel, and what does Rabbi Shmuel do with that pasuk of lo yivienu? Homi baile ala shalim hu chayiv ve'enu chayiv ala chaser. So Rabbi Shmuel uses lo yivienu to teach us that you are only chayiv. If what? You are only chayiv if you go ahead and you offer up a shalim, but not if you offer up a chaser. What does that mean? Look at Rashi. So we'll say this is Rashi. It's the last word on the line, the second wide line. Ve'enu chayiv ala chaser lekaman pligi ba ikalaman damer al iver chaser veikalaman damer al behema chasera ad shiala kola behema veikalaman damer al aktara chaser kaman pachas gazar. So we'll say we're actually going to see this machlokis later on, because we're going to see there's an interesting machlokis regarding the general prohibition of shchutei chutz. If you offer up a carbon outside of the Beis Hamikdash, are you only chayiv if you offer up a complete animal, or even if it's chaser? So we're going to see this is going to be the subject of a major machlokes. So as I saw, ultimately again, the Gemara is suggesting that Rabbi Shmuel uses this lo yivienu to teach you that you're only chayiv for offering up a shalim, not chayiv for offering up a chaser. Rabbi Akiva, where does Rabbi Akiva learn this out from? Nafkale milas oso. Rabbi Akiva learns this out from the phrase la'asos oso, and Rashi says oso means shalim mashma. Also means the animal must be fully intact. Good. Rabbi Shmuel chad lemuktari pnim shechasru v'ha'alu b'chutz v'chad lemuktari chutz shechasru v'helu b'chutz. And Rabbi Shmuel says actually both the psukim are necessary. One is to teach you ultimately again for those korbanos which were shechted inside and ultimately offered up outside of the Beis Hamikdash, and was to teach you for those korbanos that were shechted outside and offered up outside. Then in both of these cases, you will only be chayiv if what? If you go ahead and you offer up a fully intact animal, but if the animal is chaser, you will not be chayiv. I b'hatanya, Rabbi Shmuel Omer, yochum muktari pnim shechasru v'helu b'chutz chayiv. What about the following brisa? Rabbi Shmuel says, I might have thought that if you have a carbon that was shechted inside the Beis Hamikdash, shechasru, and then the animal becomes deficient, v'helu b'chutz, and then it was offered up outside of the Beis Hamikdash, I might have thought that you would be chayiv. Talmud Lomar, la'asos oso, ala shalem chayiv, ve'inu chayiv ala chaser. Ultimately, again, the pasuk says, la'asos oso, you shall perform it. So we'll say oso, as Rashi said before, means shalem, means the animal must be complete. You're only chayiv for shchutei chutz or for halah b'chutz if it's shalim, but not if it's chaser. Rabbi Akiva, muktari pnim shechasru v'helu b'chutz chayiv. So the Gemara says, and Rabbi Akiva will say, Rabbi Akiva said, muktari pnim shechasru v'helu b'chutz chayiv. So Rabbi Akiva will say that even those items that were offered up shechted inside the Beis Hamikdash and then became chaser, and you offered them up outside of the basement, that you will be chayiv. So the Gemara says, but one second, Rabbi Akiva, Hai dam yichashev my avile. We'll say, so what does Rabbi Akiva do with that phrase, dam yichashev? So you understand what's happening over here? A little bit of like Talmudic ping pong. We're just going back and forth. For every drasha that one of them makes, the Gemara just wants to know what the other does with that particular pasuk. So Rabbi Akiva, what does he do with the phrase dam yichashev? The Rabbos shchita sov. This is very interesting. So Rabbi Akiva uses that phrase of dam yichashev to teach you that what? You're even chayiv for slaughtering a sacrificial bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll say, remember again, if you do shchita on an oath for sacrificial purposes outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you will be chayiv. Now we'll say, now what's the novelty here? Right? So remember, we're going to the novelty. We'll say is there is no such thing as a bird offering that is shechted. Right? Bird offerings are always done how? Through malika. Yet Rabbi Akiva is going to advance a very novel shita, which actually is going to be halacha l'maisa, that if you shecht a sacrificial bird, I should say, if you shecht a bird for sacrificial purposes outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you will be chayav for shchutei chutz, even though there is no such equivalent inside the Beis Hamikdash. An incredible shita. So we're going to see. The Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva, Hai dam yichashev my avile. What does Rabbi Akiva say do with the phrase dam yichashev? He uses it l'rabos shchita sov. He uses it ultimately to teach me that what? That halacha l'maisa, I am chayiv even for going ahead and shechting a bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Shmuel, interestingly enough, Rabbi Shmuel agrees with this, but he learns that from a separate source. Nafgilei me'o asher yishchat. So we'll say he learns it out from the phrase ish mi beis Yisrael asher yishchat shor o kesev o eiz v'machane o asher yishchat michutz lamachane. So we'll say, so again, this pasuk is also talking about shchutei chutz, but according to Rabbi Shmuel, there's an additional phrase, because the pasuk says if a person will go ahead and shecht a shor o kesev o eiz o asher yishchat michutz lamachane, or he will shecht outside of the camp. What's that extra o asher yishchat? Rabbi Shmuel learns that out to teach me that what? That if you shecht a bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you will be chayev for that as well. So we'll say the Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva Amar Lacha. So we'll say, what does Rabbi Akiva do with that phrase? O asher yishchat. So the Gemara says, Amar Lacha haumi baile ala shochetu chayev v'lo ala molek. So we'll say, this is amazing. Rabbi Akiva will say that interestingly enough, that phrase teaches me that for birds, the only liability is for shchita. Meaning, if you were to do an act of malika outside of the Beis Hamikdash, Rabbi Akiva would actually say that what? You are not chayev for shchutei chutz. Only an act. So we'll say you're this incredible like halachic anomaly. So a bird which is never subject to shchita inside the Beis Hamikdash, the only way, and everybody seems to agree with this, the only way you're going to be chayev for shchutei chutz by a bird is how? through shchita. If you do malika on a bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash, there in fact is no liability. In other words, that bird it's insignificant. It's an avela. It's nothing. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel nafkale mizeh hadavar. Rabbi Shmuel learns that we'll say ultimately again from the phrase zeh hadavar. So we'll say interestingly enough, they're agreeing. See, here's what's fascinating. Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel are agreeing. What are they agreeing on? That the only way you can have a case of shchutei chutz on a bird is how? Is if there's real shchita. They'll both agree that if you do malika on a bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash, that there's absolutely no liability because the act is profoundly meaningless. The only thing they're disagreeing upon is ultimately the source for this particular halacha, Disanya. So as years ago, the Raisa says, this Raisa now is going to expound on this. Disanya, Asher Yishchat, if so we'll say the Pasuk says, Asher Yishchat, Ainli ela shochet behema. I only know that you're chayiv for shchutei chutz if you shecht the behema, you shecht an animal outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Shachat of minolan. We'll say first wide line kov zayin amud. How do I know that if I shechted a bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash that I'm going to be chayiv? Talmud lomar o asher yishchat. Therefore, we'll say the pasuk says o asher yishchat. That phrase the Gemara understands is an extra extraneous phrase. O asher yishchat comes to include what? Even if you shecht a sacrificial bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you will be chayiv. Yachol af hamolik. I would have thought that one should be chayiv for malika outside of the Beis Hamikdash as well. Supposed to listen to this, and I can make, by the way, a very cogent argument. What's the kavachomer? Here we go. Vidinu. We'll say so. This is the argument to say that you should be chayiv for malika outside of the Beis Hamikdash. I'll tell you, it's a kavachomer. Vidinu. Uma shchita dein derech shela bifnim chayiv. So listen to this. When it comes to shchita, now so say let's go to the following argument. Let's say for a moment we'll all agree that if you go out and you shecht the bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash for sacrificial purposes, that you'll be chayiv. When it comes to shchita, Rabbi say, which is not the normal sacrificial process for a bird inside of the Beis Hamikdash, but if you do it outside of the Beis Hamikdash, everybody will agree that you're chayiv. Then I can make the kavachomer that's what malika shederech hechshera bifnim. Eino dinshu chayiv. The Rabbi say all the more. So again, fine. I'm good with this. That if you want to tell me I'm chayiv for shechting a bird outside the Beis Hamikdash, even though what shchita is not the manner of preparation for a sacrificial bird inside the Beis Hamikdash, yet you're chayiv if you do it outside of the Beis Hamikdash, then I would certainly say that's what that malika, which is the proper sacrificial process for the bird inside the Beis Hamikdash. I certainly should be chayiv for malika outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll say it's a powerful kavachomer, very convincing. Talmud lomar. Therefore, the pasuk says zeh hadavar. Therefore, we'll say the pasuk says zeh hadavar, and zeh hadavar ultimately tells me that what zeh hadavar shetziva shleimor. Then we'll say it's only so look at Rashi. We'll say it's about 7 lines from the bottom in Rashi. Talmud lomar zeh hadavar. So the Gemara says asher tziva. Shchita v'lo malika. So we'll say juxtaposed to that pasuk asher tziva there is the concept of shchita to teach you that juxtaposition teaches me that it's dafka for shchita that I'm chayiv and not for malika. So we'll say this, by the way, this you understand is not a logical argument. This is just a scriptural argument. So it's really quite amazing because again, logic would dictate that you would absolutely be chayiv for shchita, for malika. In bachutz, you'd absolutely be chayiv. Yet again, the nature of the drasha supposed to say is for a bird you will only be chayiv for shchita, not malika. Incredible. Rabbi Akiva Amar Lacha. Rabbi Akiva will say, no, that's the adar I need for something else. Hu mibayle ligzera shava. So Rabbi Akiva will say, no, we need ultimately again that zadavar. Ultimately, again, for a different Gezerah Shava. So we'll say, so again, I want to point out, even though Rabbi Akiva takes the pasuk, he doesn't disagree with Rabbi Shmuel in terms of the halacha. Remember, again, they're both agreeing that halacha lemaisa, and I both say this is indeed halacha lemaisa, that you are only chayiv for shchita by shchutei chutz of a bird. You're only chayiv for shchita if you did malika on a bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll say, what have you done? Well, what you've done is something, you've ruined a perfectly good bird, right? Because, I will say now, obviously it's not kosher, right? Because it's an avela, you can't do anything with it. But it's not. But the good news is you're not in violation of shchutei chutz as well. So we'll say, here we go. So the Gemara says, v'hadisnan, hakom. So we'll say now we're transitioning again. Hakometz, So first of all, again, just understand that is halacha l'maisa. Halacha l'maisa. The only time you're chayav for shchutei chutz on a bird is if you did shchita. If you did malika, even for the intentions, ultimately again of sacrificial purposes, it is absolutely meaningless outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Next, listen to this. What happens if a person does kmitza? Kmitza, we'll say, which is the 3 fingerfuls of the flour. If you do kmitza, or kabbalah's damim b'chutz, or we'll say for that matter, you do kabbalah. We'll say kabbalah is the act of receiving sacrificial blood in a kli. If you did either of these things, ultimately outside of the Beis Hamikdash, how do we know that ultimately again you are pater? So the Gemara says, I don't understand what's the havamina that a person should be chayiv for these things. Well, I'll tell you why. Tisi mishchita. Because I would have learned out these things ultimately again from shchita. And I would have just said, just like shchita, if you did it b'chutz, you would be chayiv. So to was like kometz, which is a part of avoda, kabbalah, which is a part of avoda, you should also be chayiv. To which the Gemara says, no, you can't learn out from shchita, and I'll tell you why. So I will say, shchita has its own peculiar pieces to it. In that what? In that halacha l'maisa, if you shecht a carbon pesach with the intention of people who are not registered for that particular chabura, the shchita is invalid. So you see that shchita has its own peculiar aspects to it. Therefore, he can't learn out from shchita. Look at Rashi. I will say, mal shchita. Shekin posel so Pesach shishakt shatushlo ochin. So we'll say it's about 5 lines up in Rashi. So the Gemara says kigon lechola v'zakim shenyochol lechol kizayis kidichsev ish lefiach lo tachosu tomer bekometz mincha delo shayich psul shalo leochlav. So we'll say shchita is unique, and that at least shchita by Karban Pesach. If you shechted a Karban Pesach, I was saying you had in mind to do the shchita for people who are not fit to partake of the Karban, that invalidates the Karban. Such a psul doesn't apply to Kmitza, and such a psul ultimately again does not apply to Kabbalah as well. Therefore, you can't learn out from Zrika. Okay, I can learn out Tisi Mizrika. Why don't I learn out from Zrika? We'll say just like Zrika is possible outside of the Beis Hamikdash, so too what? So too Kmitza and Kabbalah should also be possible outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Can't do that either. I'll tell you why. Mal Zrika shekin zar chayiv ala misa. So I will say ultimately again when it comes to Zrika, if a non-Kohen does this avod, it will be chayiv misa. Take a look at Rashi. Shekin zar chayiv ala. Before you turn the page, last Rashi on the daf. Shekin zar chayiv ala misa. Ma she'inkim b'kmitza v'kabbalah. But interestingly enough, when it comes to kmitza and kabbalah, as much as a non-Kohen is not supposed to do it, if he did it, there is not a chayiv misa. Diba'inon avoda tama, v'lo avoda sheyesh achareh avoda. Because we'll say in general again, a zar is only chayiv ultimately again for doing what we call an avoda tama. In other words, a concluding avoda, but not an avoda that has itself not an avoda that has another avoda after it. So therefore, again, I will say I can't learn out kmitza and kabbalah from shchita because shchita is unique. I can't learn out kmitza and kabbalah from zrika because zrika, I will say, is a type of avoda where what? Where a zar, if he does, will be chayiv misa. That doesn't apply to these other avodos. We'll say Amud Beis. So another suggestion, Teisi maybe nayo. So we'll say maybe I could say that you know what, I can't learn out the prohibition of doing kmitza and kabbalah outside of the Beis Hamikdash from either zrika, a shchita, or zrika. But maybe I could learn out from a combination of the two. We'll say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Maybe naya, or maybe naya literally means from between them. Mishchita uzrika. So maybe I could learn it out, the prohibition to do kmitza and to do kabbalah from like a combination of shchita and zrika. To which the Gemara says, well, if that's the case, imkain lo yomar bezrika v'tesim naya. So if that's the case, don't say anything by zrika, and we can learn out from between the two. V'tesim is shchita. Maybe we can learn out from shchita. We can learn from shchita. Ma'ala shchita shekein nefsales shalo l'shem ochlin b'Pesach. But say ultimately, you already said before, you can't learn it out from Pesach. Why? You can't learn it out from shchita because shchita has this peculiar halacha by Karban Pesach. Shekis Gemara says tesim ha'allah. So maybe you learn it out from the prohibition ultimately again to offer up karbanos outside. Mal ha'allah shekein yeshnan b'mincha. But say ha'ala is also different. Why? Because ha'ala, Rabbi say, applies even by a carbon mincha. Even by a carbon mincha. So why don't you, again, if you can't learn it out from anyone in particular, why not learn it out, Rabbi say, from some combination? We'll say the pasuk goes out of its way to go ahead and articulate these concepts in order to tell you that what? We don't want you learning it out from a combination of things, but rather, again, we only want you learning it out from specific instances. Okay, I'm Rabbi Avo. So we'll say, so therefore, again, just to understand, so therefore the halacha is that if you go ahead and you do kamitza or you do Kabbalah outside of the Beis HaMikdash, you will not be chayiv for that. Again, I want to be clear, not encouraged, not good, but lamaisa, if you did it, there is no liability. And I will say the reason for that is because in order to have liability, it has to mirror one of the cases of biblically scripted liability. If you do not resemble that case, those cases, then by definition, again, there is no biblical liability. Good. The Gemara goes weiter. We'll say another case. Shachat v'zarak. So we'll say, let's say again, a person did shchita. We'll say this is all talking about sacrificial processes which occur outside of the Beis HaMikdash. I did shchita and I did zrika. Right? Just cleared up my schedule. Right? I went and I did both shchita and zrika outside of the Beis HaMikdash. So we'll say, what's the halacha? The divrei Rabbi Shmuel, chayiv achos. According to Rabbi Shmuel, I am chayiv once. The divrei Rabbi Akiva, chayiv shtaim. According to Rabbi Akiva, I will say I will be chayiv ultimately again twice. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Shachat v'zarak behelam echel Rabbi Shmuel. So we'll say Rashi, by the way, adds in the word what? Adds in the word helam. So I'm doing all of this at once. All of this at once. According to Rabbi Shmuel, I'm going to be chayiv once. Rashi says, "Dinafkale zrika midam shapach ba'onesh shal shchita." So we'll say ultimately again, because according to Rabbi Shmuel, he learns out everything from shchita. Therefore, again, if I do shchita and zrika in one helam, I'm going to be chayiv once. Rabbi Akiva, will say, who learns out from two separate sources. See, Rabbi Shmuel learns out shchita and zrika from one source, as you saw in Amud Aleph. So if you do them in one helam, one event, good, one event, right? Then ultimately, I'm going to be chayiv once. According to Rabbi Akiva, I'm going to be chayiv twice. So also, you'll say to yourself, I don't understand. If shchutei chutz is kares, so what does it matter if you're chayiv once or twice? How many times can one poor guy get kares? So we'll say it matters. Why? Why? Because I will say ultimately again, remember, what do you get for kares? You get malchus. Beis din gives malchus for kares. So we'll say, right? Because remember again, kares is a din b'dei shemayim, but beis din. So we'll say, so there is an afkamina whether you're going to get one set of malchus or two sets of malchus. So we'll say, so next damakra. So Abaye says, afilo div Rabbi Akiva eno chayiv elacha. So Abaye says, no, even according to Rabbi Akiva, you will only be chayiv once. Damakra, because the pasuk says, sham ta'aseh hakasav asan l'kulan avoda achos. Ultimately, I will say the pasuk says, "Ki b'makom asher yivchar Hashem b'achad shvatecha sham ta'ala olosecha v'sham ta'aseh kol asher anochi mitzavecha." So we'll say, so Abaye says, even according to Rabbi Akiva, the pasuk groups all activities, all sacrificial activities done outside into one event, and therefore, even according to Rabbi Akiva, you'll only be chayiv once. Fine. Next, zarak v'hala. We'll say what happens if you did zrika. Let's say in this case, shchita was done inside, but zrika and ha'ala, and the offering of the carbon, the actual burning of the carbon, the offering of the carbon, was done outside. So we'll say here, I built the mizbeach outside of the Beis HaMikdash bama, so now I'm doing zrika on my bama, and I'm offering up the carbon on my bama. What's the halacha? So divrei Rabbi Shmuel chayiv sham. According to Rabbi Shmuel, you chayiv twice, once for the zrika, once for the Allah. Divrei Rabbi Akiva eno chayiv alacha. So we'll say Rabbi Akiva, as we've seen already, really learns out all acts of outside sacrificial service from one source. If you only be chayiv achos, Abaye says, Rabbi Akiva chayiv shtayim. We'll say Abaye says in this case, even Rabbi Akiva will say that you're chayiv twice. Lahachi palaginhu kra, because we'll say here the pasuk itself differentiated sham ta'aleh v'sham sa'aseh. We'll say the pasuk itself differentiates between asiya and ha'alah. We assume that asiya is a reference to what? Zrika, and ha'alah is a reference to what? Burning. So the fact that the pasuk itself articulates this separately tells me that I will be chayiv twice, one for zrika, one for ha'alah. Next, shachat v'zarak v'ha'alah. So as you see, we're building out on this case. Now let's say we'll call him Ruvain. Ruvain does shchita, zrika, and ha'ala, all outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So what's the extent of his liability? The divrei akol chayiv shtayim. We'll say according to everyone, he will ultimately again be chayiv twice. Tan Rabbanan. So we'll say the pasuk says as follows: B'machana. The pasuk is b'machana. Yachal hashochet ola b'darm yechayiv. So let's listen to this. So the pasuk talks about the obligation and to shecht inside of the machana, and or I should say the prohibition to shecht outside of the machana. So we'll say, so the shaila is, we're going to now clear this a little bit. What is the nature of the prohibition of shchutei chutz? How far do we take this? So what we clearly know is, if you shecht outside of the Beis Hamikdash, of course you're going to be chayiv. But we'll say, what happens if you're shechting inside the Beis Hamikdash, but you're just shechting in the wrong place? As we've seen already, different karbanos had different types of locations inside the Beis Hamikdash itself, where the shechita was supposed to take place. Let's say, for example, Yachol hashochet ola b'darm yechayiv. We'll say, what happens if a person shechts an ola in the south of the courtyard, which we'll say ultimately again is the wrong location for the ola? I might have thought yehi chayiv. I might have thought he would be chayiv. Talmud lomar al michutz lamachana. Therefore, we'll say the pasuk says no. If you're shechting in the wrong place in the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, not good. You should shecht in the right place, but it's kosher. That's not called shchutei chutz. That's not called shchutei chutz. Talmud lomar al michutz lamachana. Yochol chutz l'shalosh machanos. I might have thought that I'm only chayiv if I shecht ultimately again outside of all three machanos. Minayin af b'machana levia. But I'll say ultimately again, how do I know that even if I shecht outside of the Beis Hamikdash, but I'm still in machana levia, that I'm also going to be chayiv? Therefore, I will say the pasuk says in the camp, i.e., even if you don't go outside of all three camps, but you just go outside of machane shchina and you're shechting in machane levi, you'll also be chayiv. Even machane yachal hashochet ola b'darm yechayiv. If that's the case, I will say I might have again. We're circling back. I might have thought that if I shecht an ola in the south of the courtyard, I would be chayiv. Tamad lomar o al michutz lamachane. Machutz lemachane miyuchad shein roi l'shchitas kachim or l'shchitas kol zevach. But I say, what does michutz lemachane mean? It means you're shechting it out in you're shechting it in a place that is not fit for sacrificial service. Yatsa darom. Therefore, we'll say this comes to exclude if a person shechts an ola in the south of the courtyard. Shafapi shein roi l'shchitas kachim. Even the south of the courtyard is not fit for general shchitas kachim. Roy l'shchitas kachim kalim, kachim kadashim. Excuse me. Even though I will say the south of the Beis Hamikdash, south of the courtyard, is not the place where you normally shecht kachim kadashim, but it is fit for kachim kalim, and therefore again I will say it's not called michutz lamachana. Good, weiter. So we'll say that by the way, that is a very important halacha. That the concept of shchutei chutz, we'll say, literally means outside of the Beis Hamikdash. In other words, shechting something in the wrong place in the Beis Hamikdash might be wrong, it might be illegal, and even in certain circumstances will invalidate a carbon, but does not qualify as shchutei chutz. Very important halacha. Amar Ula, hashochet al gago shel. So listen to this interesting case. If a person goes ahead and shechts on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash, shechts on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Chayiv. Ultimately, again, a person will be chayiv. Hoyel vein roy l'shchebosay. Now this is interesting. So now what did we just get finished saying? We just got finished saying, I will say, that if you go ahead, let's say for argument's sake, you're not for argument's sake, you're not supposed to shecht kachei kadashim in the south of the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. If you did so, it's not called shchutei chutz. What happens now if I shecht on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash? On the roof of the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll say, why is this an interesting case? I'm inside the Beis Hamikdash. I'm in the Beis Hamikdash, but again, I'm not in the place where karbanos are normally shechted. What's the status of such a karban? So hashochet al gago shel heichal chayiv. What's it? You're chayiv. You're chayiv for what? Shchutei chutz. Shchutei chutz. Why? Hoil ve'ein roy l'shchitas kol zevach. Because Yebo say, when I shecht kachei kadashim in the south of the courtyard, even though again that's not the place for offering up kachei kadashim, but it is what? The place for kachim kalim. When you shecht on the roof of the basement, the Shabbos say, nothing is shechted on the roof. That is not the place for shchita of karbanos. Therefore, again, that is the din of shchutei chutz. Maskif la Rava. So Rava says, 1 second. Imke nichtov kra al michutz la machaneh v'lo boi al pesach o al moed. So al pesach o al moed lamali. So we'll say, why do I? If that's the case, then ultimately again, why do I need that phrase? If you look at Rashi, Rashi says, "Or nichtov kra b'machaneh al michutz la machaneh Chutz lemi'ute ola b'darim. So listen to this. The Gemara essentially asks, why do I need the phrase? Let it just say, chutz lamachana, and I don't need the phrase al pesach or al moed. So the Gemara says, lav lemi'ute gago. We'll say it must be al pesach or al moed comes to exclude what? One who shechts on the rooftop of the Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara says, b'machana v'al michutz lamachana lamali. So we'll say, why do I need these phrases of machana and michutz lamachana? Lav la'asuye gago. Does that not come to include the case of what? One who shechts on the rooftop? Rav Mari says no. He says, la'asuye kula bifnim v'tzavara b'chutz. So he actually says it comes to include something else. So we'll say, so by the way, everyone is coming ultimately again to explain the me'ute gago. Everyone is accepting this exclusion that Allah Lamaisa, if you shecht on the rooftop of the Beis HaMikdash, in fact, that is going to go ahead and be considered shchutei chutz. What the Rabbi say wondering is, why do I need all these additional phrases? I'll tell you what it comes to include. La suye kula b'chutz. Both say comes to include the following case. This is actually a fascinating idea. Comes to include kula b'chutz. The entire animal is outside of the Beis HaMikdash. V'tzavara bifnim. And ultimately, again, its neck is on the inside. So we'll say ultimately again. So we'll say this is where the entire animal is outside of the Beis HaMikdash, but the neck is inside the Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara says that this is called what? That even this case is called shchute. I'm sorry, I skipped. I'm sorry, I skipped. Amra Mari Lasuye. Let me go back a few lines. Kula bifnim v'tzavara b'chutz. Both say this comes to include what kind of case? Where the entire animal, the body of the animal is inside the Beis HaMikdash, but the neck is outside. So the Gemara says the neck is outside. Savara b'chutz pshita. But say obviously, if the neck is outside of the Beis HaMikdash, then of course that's called shchutei chutz. Why is it called shchutei chutz? Amai kapad rachmana. But say, what is the Torah focusing on over here? Ashchita. But say the truth is, again, remember when it comes to shchutei chutz, but say the prohibition is what? Is shechting the animal outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, I will say I don't care where the body is. If the neck where the shechita takes place is outside of the Beis HaMikdash, then what? It's going to be called shchutei chutz. Ushchita b'chutzi. Eller, I will say rather, what does it come to include? Kula b'chutz v'tzavara b'fnei. I will say this is wild. And this is not only is it wild, but it's halacha l'maisa. I will say if you have an animal where the entire body is outside of the Beis HaMikdash, but what? The neck is inside. This is still called shchutei chutz. Still called shchutei chutz. So we'll say even the actual act of shchita is going to occur inside the Beis HaMikdash because the neck of the animal is inside the Beis HaMikdash. Nevertheless, what? It is still called shchutei chutz. And we'll say that is indeed halacha l'maisa. So we'll say a number of interesting pieces of halacha l'maisa. Number one, if you shecht on the rooftop of the Beis HaMikdash, what's the halacha? We'll say shchutei chutz. Shchutei chutz. Why? Because there is no such case of sacrificial service that occurs on the rooftop. You have an animal, again, I will say, where the entire body is outside of the Beis HaMikdash and the neck is inside the Beis HaMikdash and you shechted. What is that called? Shchutei chutz. We'll say that's the novelty. And the Gemara seems to learn that out over here based on Xeris HaKasav. We'll say another case. Now here this again gets very interesting. Itmar. Hamala bizmanazah. So we'll say now we come to some contemporary issues. Let's say again, we'll say Hamala bizmanazah. What's the case here? Look at Rashi for just a moment. Hamala bizmanazah. 3 lines up from the bottom in Rashi. Bachutz. We'll say the case over here, we'll say, listen to this. Let's say I shecht a carbon outside of the Makom HaMikdash today. So am I chayiv or not? So we'll say, you know what the Gemara is asking over here? Are you chayiv for shchutei chutz today? I go ahead, I go home, it's a beautiful day. Mamish Baruch Hashem, no rain. I just want to give. I want to give thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I tell them make it a family initiative. Kids, let's build a bama. We offer up a carbon. So wonderful. Only one problem. I just realized. Am I chayiv for shchutei chutz? Am I chayiv for shechting a carbon outside of the Beis HaMikdash or not? So again, by the way, this is a real kasha. I want to offer up a carbon today, but now I just realized, am I chayiv for shchutei chutz? So we'll say, here we go. So the Gemara says, Itmar hamala bizman hazeh. If someone offers up a carbon outside of the Beis HaMikdash today, so Rabbi Yochanan Amar chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan says, I am chayiv. Rabbi will say, Rish Lakish Amar pater. Rish Lakish Am pater. Rabbi Yochanan Amar chayiv. One simple reason. Kedusha Rishona Kitchel Shaita, the Kitchel Asar. Rabbi Yochanan says, I'm chayiv. Why? Because the Makom HaMikdash is still sanctified. We'll say, and this is very important halacha, Rabbi Yochanan holds that when the Makom HaMikdash was sanctified, that sanctification is eternal. Not only is it eternal, but it is independent of what? It is independent of what? The actual existence of a Beis HaMikdash. I do not need a Beis HaMikdash for the Harabayis to be sanctified. When the first Shlomo Melech sanctifies the first Beis HaMikdash, David HaMelech sanctifies the Harabayis, that Kiddush Rabbosai is eternal. Now remember, that has a dual ramification. Ramification of Rabbosai is that what? That you could offer up karbanos today on the site of the Beis HaMikdash, ignoring the political realities of that. Right? You could offer up karbanos today on the site of the Harabayis, and what means it is usher to offer up karbanos outside of the Beis HaMikdash. See, if you hold Kiddusha Rishon or Kiddusha L'Shayda V'Kiddusha L'Aslava, that means the Harabayis has sacrificial sanctity to this very day. I can offer up karbanos on the Harabayis, and therefore I cannot offer up karbanos outside of the Beis HaMikdash. And if I do so, I am chayiv. Reish Lakish says, no, I'm potter. I could offer up karbanos in my backyard. You know why? Kiddusha Rishon or Kiddusha L'Shayda V'Kiddusha L'Aslava. Reish Lakish holds that the sanctification of the Beis HaMikdash Rabbosai was not eternal. The sanctification of the Beis HaMikdash Rabbosai is rooted in the existence of a Beis HaMikdash, and therefore, again, the Beis HaMikdash stands, Harabayis is Kadosh, but the Kiddusha is not eternal. Therefore, if you were to offer up a carbon outside of the Beis HaMikdash, or the Harabayis today, the halacha would be that what? You would not be chayiv. You would not be chayiv. What's a fundamental machlokas? Name of the plukta, the Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yoshua, Kevefligis. So it must be that Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish are arguing ultimately again in the same machlokes of Rabbi Yoshua. This nan, our Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua. I'm Rabbi Eliezer. But listen to this. It's really fascinating. Kishay bonin behechal, when they built the Beis Hamikdash, hayu osim kilayim behechal, kilayim ba'azas. So both say, remember again, the Beis Hamikdash was comprised of two parts. It's really three parts, but for our purposes, it's two parts. There's the heichal. We'll say the heichal refers to what we call the structure of the Beis Hamikdash. In the Heichal, again, remember you had the Ulam, which was the antechamber. You had the Kodesh, which is where you had like the Mizbeach Hazav, the golden altar for incense, the Menorah, the Shulchan, curtain, and then Kodesh Kadoshim. The Chatzir, I will say, is the courtyard. So it says, the Gemara Belezer says, that when they built the Heichal, they had put up curtains first, right? The Kilayim Bazars. And so we'll say what they did is, they demarcated where the Beis HaMikdash was going to be. How? With curtains. With curtains. Ella, bro, so what was the distinction? Here we go. Shebehechol bonin mibachot. So, listen to this, is really fascinating. When they built the Heichal, they built the structure of the Heichal outside of the curtains, right? Outside of the curtains. So they didn't go inside the curtains. They built outside the curtains. Uba'azara bonim mibifnim. But for the courtyard, they built the actual walls inside the curtains. Rabbi Yeshua says, Shamati she'u makriven afa pi she'en bayis. Rabbi Yeshua says, I heard that they used to offer karbanos even in the absence of a Beis HaMikdash. V'ochlim kodshei kadoshim, af al pi she'en kilayim. And they would eat kodshei kadoshim, even though, again, there were no walls, no curtains of the Beis HaMikdash. And kodshim kalam ma'aser sheni, second wide line of Osai, and they would eat kodshim kalam ma'aser sheni, af al pi she'en choma, even though there was no wall of Yerushalayim. Why? Mipnei shekedusha rishon kitcha l'shaita v'kitcha l'asela. So what's it? Bishua comes along and says, I heard that even when there were no walls of the Beis HaMikdash, even when there were no walls, ultimately again of Yerushalayim, ultimately again they were eating karbanos. Why? Because Kedusha Rishona Kitcha L'Shaita, the Kitcha L'Asal. Because Rabbi say, the Kedusha of the first Beis HaMikdash, the Kedusha that began with the first Beis HaMikdash, and by the way, I want to point out, if you hold Kedusha Rishona Kitcha L'Shaita, the Kitcha L'Asal, Rabbi say, I'll tell you something amazing. It comes even before the Beis HaMikdash. It's quite possible that it comes at the time that David HaMelech sanctified the ground. From the moment that David HaMelech sanctified it, ultimately again as the Makom of the Beis HaMikdash, then ultimately again, that's a machlokes in of itself. Is it from David? Is it from Shlomo? We're not really worried about that. For our purpose, also what it tells you is, from the time that ultimately it was sanctified first for the first Beis HaMikdash, that Kiddusha is eternal. Which means even in the absence of a Beis HaMikdash now, you could still offer up karbanos there, and you could still eat karbanos there. Now we'll say, now on the flip side, what does that mean? If you could offer up karbanos there and eat karbanos there, then what? then you can't offer up karbanos anywhere else, and if you do so, you are in violation of shchutei chutz. Rabbi say, listen to this. Now this is Rabbi Yeshua's statement. Lav michlad Rabbi Eliezer savar lo kidsha. So Rabbi say, we would assume that if Rabbi Yeshua is saying that again, Kiddusha Rishon Kidsha Shayta V'Kidsha Lasad Lava means Rabbi Eliezer doesn't hold this, which Rabbi say then means that the machlokes Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer is really the same machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, to which the Gemara says not necessarily. Only Rabbi Shimimai, not necessarily. It could be Dilma the Chuli Alma Kiddusha Rishon Kidsha Shayta V'Kidsha Lasad Lava. It could be Rabbi say that both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua both hold that what? That the initial Kiddusha of the Malkam HaMikdash is eternal. And simply, Umar Mai Dishmiya Lekamar, Umar Mai Dishmiya Lekamar. And Abba says simply, they're both just relating what they heard. In other words, they're just actually retelling information, lav dafka, that they are conveying their respective halachic positions. V'chitema kilayim Rabbi Eliezer lamli. And Abba say furthermore, again, according to Rabbi Eliezer, why would you ultimately need the kilayim at all? Why would you need the curtains? Let's new seva alma. But say it's quite possible ultimately again that even if you hold that the curtains did not go ahead and convey or create any type of Kiddusha Hamakom, they were necessary ultimately again for tznius purposes. In other words, say that for the Beis Hamikdash there's a concept of tznius, which is that the avodah should be something done in private. The avodah is not necessarily a public spectacle; it's done ultimately in private. So I just want to point out over here. So what you see is something very interesting. So this machlokes, obviously between Rabbi. So I just wanted. Let me just. So we wanted to align the machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish with the machlokes Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. That didn't work out because it's possible that Rabbi Eliezer and Yoshua both agree that Kiddusha Rishon and Kiddusha L'Shaita v'Kiddusha L'Asad Lavo. So leaving them aside, we still do have the machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish about what happens. Again, their machlokes is what happens if you offer up karbanos today outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Yochanan will say that you are chayiv. Reish Lakish says that you are pater. Rabbi Yochanan says that you are chayiv. Why? Because Kiddusha Rishona Kiddusha L'Shaita v'Kiddusha L'Asad Lavo. The Kiddusha of the Makkah HaMikdash Rabbi is eternal, and therefore again Allah Chalamaysi, if you offer up a carbon outside today, you are chayiv for shchutei chutz. That's Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish says no. The Kiddusha of the Harabais Rabbi only applies when there's a Beis Hamikdash sitting there. That if there's no Beis Hamikdash, there is no Kiddusha Samakum. So what say? You should know the Rambam Paskins like Rabbi Yochanan. The Rambam Paskins that Kiddusha Rishona Kiddusha L'Shaita v'Kiddusha L'Asad Lavo, which is very important. We'll say this is the famous Shitas Rambam. Therefore, according to the Rambam, if you want to offer up karbanos today on the Harabayis, you could absolutely do so. Shabbos say, I'll tell you something very interesting. Comes up in the poskim. That's why there are many Rishonim and Achronim who hold. It's everyone flocks to Yerushalayim for Pesach, but there are many Rishonim and hold who held that what Dafka in the absence of the Beis Hamikdash, you should dafka leave. You should come to Baltimore. Come to Baltimore for Pesach, right? I will say you should dafka leave Yerushalayim for Pesach. Why? Because I will say if you hold Kiddusha Rishona Kiddusha L'Shaita v'Kiddusha L'Asad Lavo, that means you can't offer up karbanos. If you can't offer up karbanos, it's quite possible that what you have to offer up karbanos, which means that there is a din of Karban Pesach. If there's a din of Karban Pesach, then what? If you're there, you have to do it. If you don't do it, you actually create halachic issues. So there were many who dafka were makbid to leave Yerushalayim, ultimately dafka for Pesach. Now that is a minority opinion. Because again, I will say it's not pashit. Even if you hold Kiddusha Rishona Kiddusha L'Shaita v'Kiddusha L'Asad Lavo, many understand that what is that? That's a license to offer up karbanos. The obligation only devolves upon us when there is an actual Beis Hamikdash. But I just want to point out the Rambam does in fact paskin that Kiddusha Rishona Kiddusha L'Shaita v'Kiddusha L'Asad Lavo. That means the Kiddusha of the Beis Hamikdash is eternal, which means Rabbi say that what? Sorry, scratch your plans for today. Do not build that backyard bama. Sorry. Do not offer up that carbon with the family. Right? Why? Because at least according to Shittas HaRambam, if you do so, one will actually be in violation of Shchutei Chutz. Now, whether or not there's a Chiyuv Kares in the absence of a Beis Hamikdash is also subject to dispute, but either way, it's not going to be good. But I will say, but that is Shittas HaRambam, that Kiddusha Rishona Kiddusha L'Shaita v'Kiddusha L'Asad Lavo. That's just one more piece and we'll stop for today. Itmar. I'm sorry? So in order to go ahead and offer up, even according to Rambam holds that you could offer up karbanos in the Beis on the Harabayis today, you would need a paraduma. You need a paraduma, correct? You'd absolutely need a paraduma. So it says the Itmar Hama'ala ve'in bo kizayis. Saying one more. Now, totally new topic. Totally new topic. But listen to this. Everyone agrees, although we did not state this explicitly, that in order to be chayiv for offering up a carbon outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you have to have a kizayis of sacrificial meat. If you offer up less than a kizayis, you are not chayiv for ha'alah for offering up a carbon outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So listen to this interesting case. Hama'aleh ve'in bo kizayis ve'etzem mashlimu lekizayis. So listen to this fascinating, riveting case. There's a kizayis. There's only one problem. It's not a kizayis of meat. It only becomes a kizayis with what? With the bone. So if you add the bone to the meat, you have a kizayis. But it's not an independent kizayis of meat. So we'll say, are you chayiv in such a case for ha'alah, for offering up the carbon outside the Beis Hamikdash? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Amar chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan says you're chayiv. Reish Lakish Amar pater. Reish Lakish says you're pater. What are they arguing about? Rabbi Yochanan Amar chayiv chiburi olin ke'olin dami. So we'll say essentially Rabbi Yochanan says anything attached to the meat is part of the meat. Right? So the bone is attached to the meat, and therefore it's part of the meat. Reish Lakish Amar pater chiburi olin lav ke'olin dami. And we'll say Reish Lakish says you're pater. Why? Just because it's attached to the meat doesn't automatically make it part of the meat, and therefore again he's going to say that you are going to be pater. We'll say the Rambam Paskin is like Rabbi Yochanan, namely again that we're looking for the kizayis. Ultimately, we are mitzarif the volume of the bone to the meat as well, and therefore even if the combined even if you don't have independent kizayis of meat, but it's only kizayis together with the bone, ultimately again you will be chayiv. We'll stop over here. Shkoyach. We'll say, just a reminder, we have a beautiful upcoming gala siyum on August 11th. Shabbos Mevarchim Chodesh Elul. This is going to be the collective siyum for every single Masechta since Avodah Zarah, right? Which is where we're a little bit delinquent in our siyumim. So this is going to be everything from Avodah Zarah through Menachos. It's mamish going to be the siyum of the century, right? It's going to be again August 11th, and again it's a beautiful. Also, it's during the summer. It's for the mishpachos. It's for everyone together. It's going to be a luncheon following davening on that Shabbos. That is also Shabbos Mevarchim Chodesh Elul, a very special Heilig Shabbos that we're going to get to celebrate our accomplishments and begin to lay the groundwork. We begin Zevachim. Sorry, we begin Menachos. Did I say Menachos? I'm excited about Menachos. Right? We're Messiahim Zevachim. We begin Menachos that Sunday, I believe. I believe it begins Rosh Chodesh. We'll say we need RSVPs to know if Emir Hashem is going to be a Davar Shabali Olam. If you have not yet signed up but would like to participate, you could see Saeed. He even has his credit card swiper here. You can just tell him if you want to come. I will say please let him know, or again we'll put it out on the WhatsApp.